Today, I just wanted to take a second to talk about the importance of voting. I think we talk about it a lot in a more general sense, in the sense of, well, it's important to make your voice heard, and it's important to, know what you believe and go out there and do something for it. But today, I want to talk a lot more practically about the importance of voting. And I want to start by talking about the importance of a single vote. Recently, as I'm sure as many of you here, I was at one of the debates hosted by the League of Women Voters, a fantastic organization across the country that does amazing nonpartisan work. And at the debates, they had these sheets talking about the power of one vote. And I found this extremely fascinating. So I want to share my favorite examples with you. I've talked before about how on certain election levels, your voice can be more and more powerful. How in small towns, there's simply not as many votes. How in some big cities like Hartford, sometimes elections are as low as 5% turnout. How you can make a difference by percentage, by relativeness. But you can also make a difference just because one vote sometimes does decide things. So this is a sheet from the League of Women Voters talking about things that have been accomplished through one vote. The first one I want to share is that one vote brought Texas into the Union in 1845. One vote changed the geography of our country. It changed the lines of where our country ends. It changed if people were part of this country or not. One vote changed our country in a way so powerful that we can't even imagine the United States not having Texas anymore. It is part of our country deeply. And it happened because of one vote. In 1920, one vote made Tennessee the 36th state to ratify the 19th Amendment to the Constitution, which gave women the right to vote. A single vote in Tennessee. One vote changed what voting meant in our country. It brought us closer to equality. It brought us closer to what I believe a vision of a democracy that we want to live in looks like. A world where not only everybody's allowed to vote, but we push for that privilege. We push to make sure that people have a right to vote. It has changed our country by changing who makes the decisions, by making it we the people. One vote can change a lot. And beyond that, it's important to know where that vote is going. I talk a lot about how on smaller elections, it's easier to see your voice being made more and more prominent. But we are currently going through presidential elections that have more attention than ever before. That won't always be the case. That will not be the case for the rest of our lives, I expect. We are going to hit other points where people start tuning out. Of the eligible voters in 1980, 22% cast their ballots for Jimmy Carter, 27% for Ronald Reagan, 46% did not vote. And if anybody knows a thing about our country and our country's politics, Reagan is a very important figure in American politics, a very influential figure. Many political analysts would argue that his presidency changed the course and politics of our country. And it happened with most people just staying out of it. One vote can make a difference. Whether you're lucky because that one vote happens to make the difference, or you're on such a small scale that one vote, by definition, must make a difference. One vote can change things. We need to vote because it's so easy to forget that a lot of times we don't have the power to change things by one vote. But every now and then, when we least expect it, we do. Second, I want to talk about early voting. Early voting is now available in Connecticut, and I have heard incredibly promising things about it. A lot of people really happy that it exists, taking advantage of it, making sure that they have their voice heard. And this is extremely exciting to me, mostly because I see the people taking advantage of it who need it most. Older people who can't get reliable transportation or can't necessarily wait in long lines on election day. I've seen people who go to college and have to worry about either college classes or being at college and taking people who live far away at home to vote on election day. Being able to vote early and get that off their plate. I have seen so many people who are chronically ill be so excited to not have to worry about waking up sick on election day and what that means for them getting to have a voice in our country. And beyond that, there's such simple reasons. I really want to encourage everybody to vote early because I think objectively it is a safer way to make sure your voice is heard. On election day, anything can happen. If you leave it to one day, you can be sick. There can be weather. You can get in a car accident on the way. There can be a family emergency. Let's not kid ourselves. Let's not kid ourselves and pretend any one of us is immune from the many, many reasons that may not lead us to vote on election day. And I say this because I know people who haven't been able to vote because of these reasons, and it's not something I blame them for. If you can't vote because election day comes and you're not in a place to vote, that's how it is. But now we have a solution, and we need to take advantage of it. We need to make sure we are using the resources at our disposal. With early voting available, taking into account everything that it means, I think it's hard to justify not voting early. Just to make sure that if anything happens election day, your voice was still heard. Of course, you can wait if there's more information, if you want to figure things out. But I think it's important to recognize how valuable it can be to know that your vote has been made and it has been heard. And third, I want to talk about voting whenever you can. In our current age, voting a lot has taken on a very weird connotation. Because when we say, oh, I vote a lot, some people might think, oh, you vote every election, and some people might think, oh, so you vote multiple times every election because you're trying to steal them. And I think it makes it difficult to talk about how much we can vote legally, responsibly, ethically. When I hear people talking about, well, we got to vote a lot, and it's like, no, we can only vote once every 4 years, or we can only vote once every 2 years. And I have to be like, no, that is not the case. We may only pay attention that time. Some of us might only notice or hear about that time, but there are so many opportunities for you to make your voice heard. From party primaries, to budget referendums, to special elections that happen outside election cycles. If you're in Connecticut, there is an election every single year. Next year, the people running your town or city will be on the ballot. There are so many opportunities to have our voices heard, and we don't notice them all. We have to be aware of it. We have to be aware of all the little votes that come up through town. 2 weeks after Election Day in Brookfield, they're going to have a vote on a new radio tower. Most of us are barely going to have even processed the result of the election by the time that happens. But it's another chance to see what's going on and make our voices heard in that. Yeah?
I got one on November 7th.
Oh, gosh.
In town.
November 7th, so 2 days.
The selectmen's meeting is going to have a vote to appropriate funds to start fixing the library. So, November 7th, go to the town meeting.
On November 7th, to appropriate funds for the library, something that's obviously incredibly important. There are so many things. If you want your voice to be heard more, I can almost promise you, unless you are working in politics, you are probably not aware of everything you could vote for. Look into it. Make sure you know so you can make your voice heard. When we talk about voting, we don't have to play games. You don't have to imagine voter fraud to think of voting once as a powerful thing. We've had elections that have been swayed by one vote. We have a ways to vote to make sure that your voice is heard regardless what happens election day, and we have those opportunities to make our voices heard. This is our responsibility to help build this country stronger and better, and that means a strong democracy. There is a lot of ways in which I think it's scary the times we're living in. It's scary to think about our state of democracy and what comes next. But when I think about our chances to vote, I actually see an optimistic future. We are gaining the ability to vote. We are expanding the ability to vote. We are learning that every election matters and lower races are getting more attention. The future of voting, if we can all commit and defend and protect our democracy as well as engage with it, is very bright in my opinion. But that means working hard, not just till Election Day, but past Election Day and all the elections that come next, including the ones on November 7th and November 14th and November 15th and November 16th, because they're all the time. Thank you, everybody. I hope everybody makes their voice heard. And let's keep going, and let's remember how powerful voting is.